Here we go. Please mute yourselves, everyone.
So Boker Tov, everyone. For me, it's already the end of the day, thank God. But for you, it's just the start of your weekend. So it's two pluses. It's not just the start of the week, it's start of the weekend. So I am here from Jerusalem, from the student village. Thank God we don't have Wi-Fi here. We have line internet. So it's streaming well. But if at any point the Zoom call ends, I'll be back as soon as possible, and I'll be alerting Luther via WhatsApp. So what we're having today is a general debriefing of the elections and what happens now soon and in the mean what happened in the last few weeks. It is oddly depressing, so I invite you to ask your questions, and if I'm unclear or if I'm using some sort of idiom that's in my mind translating well, but you do not understand, that's on me, so please let me know so I can correct that. And with that, what I've done today, I've told myself, well, let's assume that they know the general broad strokes, but they are not aware of everyday Israel media. So I went to the Jerusalem Post and to N12, which is one of the Israel news websites, and to Haaretz, but mainly to J-Post and N12. And sounds bubbly. Bubbly like good or bubbly like I'm in a bubble? Not good. Okay. If I speak slower, am I more understandable? No?
I think
Okay.
people are getting a bit of a distortion in your sound, so the speed at which you speak isn't what's problematic. Yeah, a little bubbly. It doesn't sound bad to me, but that's just me. Um,
How about now? Is that better?
Everyone
Okay.
says yes, so
Okay.
groovy.
So I'll bother the roommate on the other side of the wall, but it's okay. So now that I am free of the chains of the headphones and you can hear me better, what I've done is basically go back as far as I can, a month or two into the news and look at different articles, and I took screenshots of articles that I thought you would care about, and I divided them into election results, which is just one article, and then everything else going now in Israel as a result of the elections or relevant to the elections. Okay, so we have different categories, most of them extremely wonderful in a sarcastic point of view, but I named them IDF and national security, foreign relations, internal affairs, Netanyahu trial, Ministry of Education Avi Maoz, and surging violence, which is an apt name. So again, this is my personal commentary joined with news articles. So you may take whatever I say with a grain of salt. As far as I'm concerned, I'm representing progressive, leftist, extremely political point of view. And we will talk about the mindset of the Israeli public. But at any point, if you have a question, please write it in the chat or just start talking and I'll hear you and I'll stop. Okay. I am, let's see if I can operate the, okay. There it is. Aha. Can you see the presentation?
We can see that you have started screen sharing.
Okay.
There we go. We're good.
Just a second. So my screen is frozen up, so I can see you, but let's see. I'm sorry, my computer. I bought it on before the first Yom Kippur at Adat Shalom. So it's been wreaking havoc upon my studies in the last few weeks. I'm seeing that this is not working. Just a second.
Yeah, maybe pull out of screen sharing and try again. We can see the screen, but you can't see that we see it, so that's problematic.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this will be better. Let's try now. Can you see my screen sharing?
We see that you have started it. It's kind of slow. There we go. Can you see it? That's the real question.
Okay. I can see it, but just barely. So,
Hey,
is there?
this is
there-
Ethan. Can I offer one more solution? Hello.
Yeah.
Can you email us? Can you email Luther the presentation and then he can display it?
Yeah, why not do that? And it'll take a little while, but so
I'll start talking in the
that.
meantime.
Send it to me by email.
This. I'm sending this to Magen Dror.
That's good.
Okay. So the election was, honestly, I don't know how long it was ago. It feels like an eternity, but it's here. Okay. So it's sending, it's on its way. But when I was in elections night, people were all like glued to the screens. November 1st. Okay, so it was already a month ago. Everyone was glued to the screen, and I was completely certain that there was no news coming in tonight that was going to be relevant, because the last 4 election campaigns, you know, a week later, we will still debating the results. We were still like, well, it's like half and half. It's all the same. Nothing's going to change. Something changed. Something changed this time. And when I woke up in the morning, people told me that Meretz, one of the basically 2 left-wing parties, was not in the Knesset. They were not able to cross the threshold of becoming part of the Knesset, which was for me very unfortunate because I voted for them. So that was extremely frustrating. Every campaign, every year, there's like it's in Hebrew, it's called a Gewalt campaign, of like the party comes out with publication saying, oh my God, we're gonna be out of the Knesset. You have to vote for us. We know that there are blocks, but you have to vote for us specifically. Otherwise, the entire block will fall, etc., etc. And everyone, every year, people say, Meretz is not gonna pass. Meretz is not gonna pass. And I'm like, yeah. Tale as old as time. I've heard that before. Nothing's gonna happen, and then it happened. Okay, so that was a real surprise, at least for me. And we knew that there was gonna be a lot of changes when it comes to the map. And in the first presentation that I sent, you could see. You will see in a minute. But you'll see that the Likud got 32 mandates, which is not different from what it got before. Okay, they already got 32 mandates in the last 4 or 5 times. They are very strongly the biggest party in Israel. And after that, we have Yesh Atid. Yesh Atid is the centrist, socially centrist, security-wise right-leaning party, and it is basically the most popular party that is not left-wing. יפה. זה נראה זורם, כל הכבוד. תודה, לותר. השתבח שמו. Okay. So if we can move on to the next slide. I don't even have to work. He does all the work. Thank you, Luther.
Yeah, I just found it now.
Okay. So Yesh Atid was second. The head of Yesh Atid is Lapid. If you remember. Okay. This is the title. Also, my mom demanded that I say that she loves you all. Okay, and she misses you. So let's move on to the second slide.
Hold on, I've encountered a difficulty.
And the third party is called the Religious Zionist. And it is basically a joint list of 3 parties. Okay, let's name them. Okay, the first one is Habayit HaYehudi, the Jewish home. Okay, or it's also called Ayamin Chadash, the right wing. Never mind. It's a name. It is led by Bezalel Smotrich. He's one of the most brilliant politicians in Israel nowadays. He's extremely effective. He is right-wing religious, and he's, in his own words, proudly homophobic. And so that's there as part of the 14 you can see, the third from the left, Religious Zionist, and they are joined by Noam, which is a smaller party with basically the same agenda, a little bit less political and more ideologically motivated. And that's a theme we're going to discuss. Okay, we are seeing the rise of parties who are not actually a political party. They are here to promote an ideological agenda, and they are not here to play the political game. For example, if I would compare it with the American elections, most of people in American politics, and it's a broad generalization, they are politicians. They are there to play the game and legislate within their capacity. In the Religious Zionist, the third party is called Jewish Power, Otzma Yehudit, which is as bad as it sounds. Okay? It is as bad as it sounds. And let's talk a second about the head of the religious, of the Jewish Power. Who is he? So first of all, have you heard the name Itamar Ben-Gvir? Is there a way to do like a survey here? That's interesting for me to know. Reactions. Oops. Never mind. Okay. So Itamar Ben-Gvir, let's name a few of his incredible achievements. Okay. He has been indicted 53 times. He's been found guilty of 8 criminal offenses. He has been found guilty of supporting a terrorist organization twice. He was a member of the Kahana gang, Tnuat Kach, which was announced in Israel and the world as a terrorist organization, which is part of the reason why if he were to step in the US, he would be arrested, okay, as a terrorist. He is one of the people who organize the parade of the beasts every year in Jerusalem. So when me and my mother and my siblings and my boyfriend march in Jerusalem in the Pride and Tolerance Parade, on the other side of the city, there is the Beast Parade, and they basically are the anti-LGBTQ, and he's one of the founders. So he's got that going for him as well. The IDF refused to recruit him. And basically, like I can keep talking. He worked to release the murder of Yitzhak Rabin. He had a celebration when Arik Sharon, the prime minister, went into coma. He represented the murder of the 1.5-year-old baby Ali Dawabsha. So he's got a lot going for him. And he's, as you can see, he's one of the two heads of the third largest bloc in the government. Okay, so here when you see religious Zionist 14 mandates, we have Bezalel Smotrich, Avi Maoz, the head of NOM, we'll talk about him in a moment, he's also a sweetheart, and Itamar Ben-Gvir. Okay, just a beautiful bunch of people. And then we have the national unity, Elohim Yazo, like there are so many parties and they join and they separate. Honestly, I'm too depressed to keep track anymore. But the fifth one is Shas, okay, which is the Mizrahi, the Sephardic ultra-Orthodox party, the United Torah Judaism, Jewry, I don't remember, which is the Ashkenazi ultra-Orthodox party. And then we have Israel Beitenu, which is headed by Avigdor Lieberman, who he's considered a centrist, but he's also a criminal, so that's also nice. And then we have Ram, Chadash, and Tan, which are the Arab / Palestinian / Muslim / Christian parties. It's a very big mess, and Israeli politics, like people, they're the Arabs. Israelis don't know the difference, mainly. And then we have the Labor, which was the founding party of Israel, at 4 mandates, just barely across the threshold. There's a lot of questions here about whether this is a result of Yesh Atid coming in second place, taking all the votes, or if people are intentionally not voting for Labor anymore. Okay, and then the nice zero here is Meretz, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best thing Israel had to a left-wing party. Okay, the Labor is left-wing, but it's also centrist in some of their more social-oriented positions. So this is our elections. This is the result. We are coming here after a long time. Basically, when was it? The election was 2018. 4 years where we had, was a year where we didn't have a state budget. There were years nowadays that we didn't have a prime minister. We didn't have a minister of foreign affairs. So everything is, לא יודע איך מתרגמים את זה, עומד על קירי תרנגולת. Does someone know to translate this phrase? עומד על קירי תרנגולת? It's all like wobbly. It's unstable. I don't know how to say it. Okay. Does anyone have a question about the different parties here before we continue?
Use the hand-raising function, but it may be hard. So maybe just unmute yourself if you have a question and just speak out, because with the screen sharing on, neither of us can see all of you.
In the meantime, we have a question from Shulamit, a brilliant question. And it says, do you have any idea why Israel is not taking the criminals to court and putting them in prison? Or at least making them not eligible to be elected. So one of the things I say is that if Ben Gvir, now leading the third largest party in Israel, wanted to become a teacher at Adat Shalom, he would not be able to. Okay, before I became a lecturer and a teacher in schools in Israel, I had to go to the police and take out what is called an integrity diploma, meaning that I have no criminal offenses against me, and I'm allowed to work with children, to work in education. Why is the government not doing that? Because then half of the people there wouldn't be able to maintain their power and influence. And I'm saying half, and in some bigger parties like the Likud, it's not far from that. Okay, we have from the 32, I think at least 10 who have been charged, have been investigated or found guilty of crimes. And it's very sad that a secretary needs to have an integrity diploma, but the leaders of the country don't. But that's what happens when the body leading the country polices itself. Basically, in Israel, מדברים עכשיו על פסקת ההתגברות. There's a legislation coming that might make the court supervision of the Knesset maybe minuscule. We're gonna see about that. But that's what I have to say. What is it, Gordon? Did the American right play any role in the elections? So I will say to that the United States is leading in many areas, and the rise in fascism in America has absolutely affected Israel. But I think Israel has been doing fine on that angle on our own. So it might be connected, but it might also not be. It depends on which areas. Absolutely, you can see in several areas, but I'm trying to keep Israel as responsible of our own actions as possible, and not blame it on other people, because at the end of the day, this is an independent country, even though we are in many ways connected with the United States. So that is that about the general elections. I think we can go to the next one. Okay. Okay. Luther, can you scroll up a bit for a second? Okay, so this one is very bluntly called violent surging. So in the last 2-3 weeks, the amount of violent cases in all areas of Israel has been astounding. Okay, we can see it from the left. Suspect arrested after motorcyclist stabs Israeli to death in Holon. A person, she was walking on the sidewalk, and then a motorcyclist was riding on the sidewalk, on the crosswalk, sorry, next to her. And she was saying, why are you doing, there's a road, you have a motor, you're not supposed to be here. And he started yelling at her, and her husband came and said, please don't yell. And he pulled out a knife and stabbed him. So that truly rocked Israel. People have been like talking about this nonstop, but also we had a ramming attack in Be'er Sheva, an Israeli shot in violent altercation near Kochav Yaakov. These are all, what I'm saying now, this is not a terrorist attack. These are all citizen-related or crime-related. Jerusalem bombing, okay, that's I put it in the wrong place, but 46-year-old stabbed in Kfar Yassif, that's different from the first stabbing, it's a different one. Afula teenager kidnapped and held for ransom in Jaljulia. Brink of civil war between Jews and Arabs, warns Akul Meir. Okay, Israeli crime, boss's nephew shot dead, police fear revenge killing, border police officer injured in stabbing attack, that's also, never mind. And there's also been a case of an abduction of a body. It's really, we can feel the amount of the amount of violent cases now, and it's just it's sometimes more than we can bear, really. There's a deep feeling of frustration, of the end is nigh, however you say that. Let's move on to the next area. This is violence surging. Violence surging. The next one is IDF and national security. Okay, Rega, you can't see it yet. Okay. So in IDF and national security, I'm going to talk about a variety of cases, and then I'm going to talk about one specific case that has been rocking the country. Okay. Oh, זה נחמד. Okay. So we had an IDF soldier seriously wounded in West Bank terrorist car ramming. We had Israeli violence against Palestinians and IDF, meaning you can see here to the left at the bottom, we have a picture of settlers, left bottom, a picture of settlers, and they have been attacking both soldiers and Palestinians. We know that it's been happening, but now it's been happening a lot more loudly and a lot more frequently. We had the Tiran kidnapping of 3 Druze IDF soldiers. They threw an explosive at a Palestinian house. We'll talk about a minute about Itamar Ben-Gvir's new job in the new order that we're seeing. And we also saw illegal firearms increasingly found in Palestinian terrorists and gangs. So Itamar Ben-Gvir, with negotiations currently in play with the Likud and Netanyahu, who is supposed to assemble the new government, he has achieved the role of Sar HaBitachon, the Ministry of Defense, but with an extra bonus of being in charge of a new position called the Minister of National Security, which is basically, it's also control of the military police, which is for someone who has been found guilty of supporting a terrorist organization twice and was refused to be recruited into the IDF because he's ill fit to serve, and now he is not the one giving the instructions to the commanders of the military. That is just, I think it puts Israel as a laughingstock, really, more than anything else. And that's why he says private new army, because Itamar Ben-Gvir has been known, like the 2021, what was it, 2021, we had the lynchings, and those were a result. The head of the Shabak, Sherut B'Tachon Klali, the General Defense, the General Security Service of Israel said that Ben-Gvir was the one who created these lynchings and the riots intentionally. Shabak is like the FBI. Yes, it's something like the FBI. So the head of we'll say Israeli FBI with chills on my back. The head of the Israeli FBI basically said Itamar Ben-Gvir orchestrated this to create the rioting in the streets and the violence in the streets of Israel. So that's why it's called private army, because he already had one, but now it's the official one. So that was fun. Let's move to the next one, and in this one we will zoom about and talk about a specific case that we had here. Okay, so let's go from the left all the way to the right. Okay, so we had soldiers who beat and cursed at the Hebron activists, left-wing activists in Hebron, which is under military rule, and they were filmed. And then it came to the news, and there was a lot of uproar. And basically, the IDF commander said, "This is not what we see in these video is against the military rules. We have a code of conduct, and we have what we need to do and must do in different cases, especially with left-wing activists or Palestinian, such and such. And the soldiers here have violated the rules." So one of them was sent to a short jail time. I think it was 10 days. And others are facing a longer inquiry. And the רמטכ"ל, אני שכחתי את כל המילים באנגלית. איך אומרים רמטכ"ל? The chief in command of the military? כן,
Yeah.
תעזור לי.
Yes, that's good. It's chief of staff or whatever, chief of the armed forces.
Okay. Okay, the chief of the IDF, Aviv Kochavi, said we need to support our soldiers, and we need to support our commanders. And if they have been sentenced, that's because that's military law. And he's been saying that because, as we can see on the second clip, the one starting with Ben Gvir, he said the chief of staff should think twice about punishing Givati soldier. So there was a soldier who said on the video, he said, Ben Gvir is coming and you can't stop him now. Okay, basically saying Itamar Ben Gvir is coming and he's gonna give us whatever we need to do to make sure that we control here and you have no say. And there was a lot of pushback because soldiers are supposed to be apolitical. They're supposed to be impartial. And there we have a soldier beating down an activist, saying this political figure is the one calling the shots and not the IDF commanders. And this basically tore the country in half. It's still a very big thing here where people are saying he shouldn't have, he should, why is Ben Gvir interfering? He should interfere. Why are the commanders not supporting the soldier? They should support him. And we have an article here saying, will Ben Gvir's populist politics destroy the IDF's ethical code? And that's a very big question, because at the end of the day, Ben Gvir, as the Minister of National Security, he is the one giving the chief of the IDF instructions, and the chief IDF needs to follow. But the IDF, as the professional body, if we have the lay leaders in the Adat Shalom and the professional is saying you can't do that, and the lay leaders or the board are saying yes you can and you will. So there's a huge clash here. And Ben Gvir, as we demonstrated, he's not a politician. He doesn't care about playing the rules. He doesn't care about settling for his values. He's come to promote an agenda, and he's doing it very well. Okay. The last bit here is that 55% of Israelis want IDF to kill terrorists who are no longer a threat. Okay. Someone who has been pinned to the ground, if they are a terrorist, they should be shot. And 55% of Israelis said that they support that. I will say that Israelis live in a constant atmosphere of fear. there are the terror attacks and the lynchings and the stabbings, and everyone is blaming one another, and that's intentional. We have many political figures who've been doing that very well for a decade, and we are seeing the culmination of that in the last governments, but especially this one. And before we move on from terrorist attacks to the next theme, which will be foreign relations, which is a small tidbit. Does anyone have any questions? Well, let's see. Ramatkal. Ken. No question. Okay. Two small things. Avi Maoz, the head of Noah, and I told you we'll talk about him. He's one of the three heads: Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and Avi Maoz. Avi Maoz calls Egypt an enemy state. We have a peace treaty with them, okay, with Egypt. It's not a warm peace. It's a cold peace, but it's still a peace. So Gantz, who was the chief of the IDF, defended the ties with Egypt. And that's basically another way where basically Israeli politicians are signaling to the public and to other countries what their intentions are, okay? And we can talk about the vote against sending Israel to The Hague about war crimes. Israelis are outraged and distraught, and they're saying, well, it's not fair. We have terrorist attack. How about they live here and then they judge us, etc., etc. I don't have anything to say about that. I'm like, at this point, let The Hague do whatever it wants. I don't trust what we're doing here in Israel. I don't trust our politician. I don't trust our leaders. That's my own point of view. And in the last couple of months, I've become extremely suspicious of anything that has to do with the leaders of this country. That's it. I'm sorry for depressing you. My mom was talking to me beforehand saying like, well, you are in charge of representing Israel to an entire public, and what you say, they take as you say it, and they believe you. But I don't have anything else to say on the subject, honestly. Matt, you had a question? I can't hear you, Matt. I can't hear you, Matt.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. Don, it's good to see you. For years, the Israeli electorate was pretty much split evenly between left and right. Now it's not split evenly. Now most of the voters are on the right. What happened? Was there some event, some argument that changed everybody's idea? Or changed the idea of some small group of people, which was enough to end the stalemate?
So I'll say that there is a question there, whether this is a result of the last few elections of more people going to vote in the Arab parties, which meant that the percentages of each mandate became bigger, smaller. However, there was a play there with more voters from the Arab parties, and that made all the smaller parties smaller. Also, Ben-Gvir campaigned in the last few elections, in all of them, but he never crossed the threshold. This time, he joined forces with two other parties, one of whom also didn't cross last time. So we had a joining of parties that otherwise would have failed to cross the threshold. And also we had an attempt by Meretz to join with Labor, and Labor refused. Okay.
It is the threshold system is fairly new, right? Or it keeps increasing and it's an effort to reduce the number of parties. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
It depends when you ask and who you ask. But at the end of the day, the question of the threshold is the question of who do we let represent us, and how much does the Israeli public need to support someone for them to have that legislative power? And that's a very good question, which I myself, like, I don't know enough about the percentages to say which I prefer. I think that 120 representative is both too much and too little for an entire country.
And mandate
And-
is the Hebrew word for a seat, right? A seat in the Knesset.
So in the Hebrew, for in Israel in general, for every mandat that a party has, they have a seat. But the total mandates that we have for each party is 120.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. It was
Okay,
originally meant to keep small Arab parties out, and then they joined forces. Okay, we can continue.
Hey,
Sorry, Luther.
Idan, sorry to jump out. Just a quick question about the threshold. The threshold is an amount of the percent of the electorate that has to vote, a percent of all the votes that have to go to a single party in order to get a seat. So it used to be, I think, 1% or 2%, and now they have to get a higher threshold, 4%. And the idea, one of the factors, one of the results of this kind of thing is you don't have 120 parties, maybe you only have 40 or 10 that get in. Otherwise, every little party could have it. And then you'd have so much time coalition building that you wouldn't be able to form a government. It would just be all these little splinters you try to create into one big piece of wood. Now you have fewer pieces of wood, bigger splinters. You can get to the wood that you need to govern quicker. Isn't that part of the intention?
It's part of the rationale, and that's also why the smallest party has the 4 mandates, the Labor. Okay?
Yeah.
But also,
Idan, any sense of how cohesive
just a
these three?
second, Marsha, I need to finish another tidbit about a reply to Ethan. But also we saw a prime minister that had a party of 6 mandates. So it's a very big question about how much does the system work and how much the power still remains in small parties. Yes, Marsha, sorry.
So I was just going to ask, any sense of how cohesive these 3 extremist parties will be, or could they self-destruct like happens? Do you have a sense of that?
I think they're seeing that they have a lot of power now, which 2 of the 3 didn't have in the last couple of years. And I think they are ideologically similar enough, though they have their differences. They are ideologically similar enough that they will be able to stick it together and form a government. You know, it was a joke in Israel before 2018 that a government in Israel was 2 years and not 4. And after 2018, this number is, that's also a joke. If it's a 6 months government, it's a great one. Gordon, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Matt's question for a second. Has there been a fundamental shift towards the right in the Israeli electorate, or are people walking into the voting booth and thinking, this just isn't working, I don't know what to do, let me flick this switch? The polarization is internal to people, okay? And if so, would a better voting system like the one they use in Oregon, which I really don't understand, work? And this a related question is there anything in the demographics of the voting or in local voting results that would suggest that certain people are voting differently or care about different kinds of issues than they are voting for at the national level, or that those views will change?
those are great questions. I'll say that I myself am not sure if I was just living in a small echo chamber and just reflecting back to me what was already there, or if there is a great change. I will say that a lot of people around me who used to vote for Likud are saying, we believe Netanyahu was our protector for a long time. He's not our protector anymore. And then they said, well, I care about the safety of my kids, so what can I do except vote for Ben-Gvir? Okay, and Ben-Gvir, his election campaign, he had an ad of like you can hear a woman calling behind the door, and she was screaming into the emergency line that someone is coming to stab her kids. That was the election campaign. That and the motto, Ben-Gvir will protect you. So I saw a lot of people who used to vote Likud voting for Ben-Gvir this time. And that's a major shift of basically saying this is a person that we accept in the Knesset, which last time didn't happen. And Gordon, what was your second question?
I just wondered if that's primarily, I mean, is the shift to the right or the shift towards national security, is that concentrated in certain age groups? I mean, are there glimmers of more progressive and democratic approaches in younger voters, or in voters in certain regions, or voters in certain ethnic groups, or is there a reflection of more issues focused orientation in local elections?
So I will say that we saw the last government did a lot of great things to the LGBTQ community, to women's rights, to other stuff. Our new generation are strongly against the fascism of Ben-Gvir and his like. And we see a lot of people from different ages, from different places, who are standing against Ben-Gvir and what's going on right now. It's a good question about demographic. I think it's mainly a shift. And the main shift is the shift into suddenly we are allowing people who are blatantly, for years, systematically racist, misogynistic, homophobic. Okay, let's see, there was another question here. Has the government actually been formed yet? No. But there are already agreements in place. And unless the impossible happens, I don't see them falling. They have much more to lose than they have to gain. What is another question here from Quentin and Gail was what has been the response from Israeli Arabs, Druze, the people in the territories? We don't know. Mainly, I don't know. Okay, because it's not shared on the Israeli media, and I don't know Arabic. So that's what we have here. Even your nice leftist knows not a word in Arabic. Okay, take that also in mind. Internal affairs. Let's talk. Ben-Gvir says Israeli police is anti-Semitic. It's one of the things Ben-Gvir love to say. Anyone who opposes whatever he has to say or opposes terrorism is anti-Semitic. And this has been, it's going very well, this idea. This is spreading very fast. And leftists in Israel, they are called auto-anti-Semites. Okay? You hate Jews if you stand against X, Y, Z. Whatever. Smotrich, Bezalel Smotrich, as I said, he's one of the most brilliant politicians now in Knesset, gets the finance office and authority over West Bank. And we'll see what that does. Smotrich is, of the three that we have here, Maoz, Ben-Gvir, And Smotrich, he is the politician. He's the true, savvy, well-seasoned politician. Okay, so whatever he's doing quietly. So that's harder to uncover. But let's talk about Avi Maoz, the head of Noam, who is proudly saying that women should stay in the homes, stay in the kitchen. They shouldn't take back they shouldn't be commanders and soldiers in the IDF. They shouldn't hold positions, etc. So Maoz is threatening to cancel the Pride and Tolerance Parade and to take away women's rights after deal with Netanyahu. Okay, so we have that. Let's move over. How much influence did Trump and pro-Netanyahu sentiment for him along American Jews have on the elections? I think Trump was a tool in the hands of the right-wing politics here in Israel. No more than that. He was mainly a tool. He did do a few things that helped the right wing do whatever they wanted to, but the fact that he was there was basically enough. Just two things that I wanted to tell you about Netanyahu. Netanyahu says he's in charge. Israel will not be run by Talmudic law. And I put that on because it needed to be said. It needed to be said, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So it is something on the table. And people like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Avi Maoz, they are doing that. Carol and Mingo, I'm gonna respond to that in a minute, okay? But that's something that's now on the table for a lot of people. And Netanyahu accuses Lapid of inciting IDF officers, mayors to revolt against incoming government, okay? And we need to move on to the next presentation to explain that one. Okay, it's not the next one. I apologize, I misled you, but we will be moving on. The Netanyahu trial is still ongoing, and that's something to consider. We have someone who's assembling government and putting in terrorists. I'm not being, some of them are terrorists, putting them in power, and he is on trial. Let's continue. The Ministry of Education at the hands of Noam Party, okay? Ken, I'm sorry, but Noam in Israel is not a good, not a good reference. So basically, Avi Maoz, one of the three heads that we talked about, he has been granted authorities over a segment of the Ministry of Education. And they said, well, we'll give him just a small division. And they're basically now admitting that they gave him much more responsibilities than they should have. They gave Avi Maoz responsibilities about all the external programs of the Children of Israel, which is basically all of the queer organizations, all the human rights organizations, all the organizations promoting pluralism and democracy. All of those, he said, I'm going to ban them. I'm going to ban them from schools and summer camps and anything else that has to do with our youth. Okay, so in response, more than 50 local authorities announced on Saturday that they will not cooperate with the policies of the right-wing member of Knesset, Avi Maoz from Noam Party. The heads of the large number of the rebellious authorities, okay, Israel is divided into regions, okay, and each region has a council. These are the rashuyot, the local authorities, okay? They have announced that they will self-fund the plans that will be affected as a result of the Education Ministry's department's transition to external programs in the hands of Maoz. That also means he's not only, he will now permit organizations that are anti-pluralistic, religious, anti-democratic into schools. And that's a very, very big win for the fascist right. According to the coalition agreement between Likud and Noam, the unit for external programs and promoting partnerships in the ministry will be transferred to the Prime Minister's office and then handed over to Maoz's authority. The Noam chairman has often expressed extreme positions regarding the LGBT community and women's rights. So this is now in play. The Likud are in one day saying we will not let him do anything extreme, and then on the other day saying he's in charge, we will not interfere, we will not intervene, whatever he decides. But that's here. And I think that's it. Is there another slide? Just let me see. No. So general feelings from me personally. I've been, the day Ben-Gvir was elected and the deal was struck with Netanyahu, I was incapacitated completely. I was like crying, I was depressed, and I've already been thinking for the past few months, honestly, thinking about alternatives to move to a different country. I'm at the point where I'm like thinking, what am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I'm seeing like one of the most famous sentences by a political figure in Israel is Ha'am metumtam ha'am yeshalem, which until this day I did not believe in that sentence. And it basically says the people are stupid, the people will pay. And it's a very commonly used sentence. And I did not appreciate the sentiment, but I do appreciate it now. And instead of stupid, I will switch it out to, I don't know, racist, fascists are scared. I don't know. People are terrified and they are voting by what leaders have been saying for them for years and years and years. The writing has been on the wall for a long time. And I myself currently only have the mental energies to study for my education in Jewish philosophy. I am not engaging in any political activities. And that's just to share with you my point of view. I used to be active politically, and I'm not anymore, which is both very sad and makes me want to sit myself down for a talk, but also, like I like to say, it's not that I don't have the motivation to go out and protest, it's that I have the larger motivation to sit down and watch the new season on Wednesday on Netflix. Okay? So that's how it is. I know people who are less depressed, who are more happy, who are satisfied with the results, who think that they are now getting safety. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a rise in violence. We're seeing a rise from violence from settlers. We're seeing rise from violence from soldiers. And we're seeing an increase of terror attacks. And we are only wiser in retrospective. So I hope I took him out as the fool in this incident and at this time. But really, it is quite depressing. And I know it may be very difficult for you to hear, especially when you're not here to experience that. So I shoved down like 3 months of 2 months. I don't know already. It feels like a lot of time, a lot of news down your throat in a short hour. But that's all I have to say. If you have any other questions or any comments or stuff you want to say, Gordon is asking, is there a way to donate to rebellious programs? So we have the New Israel Fund, They're a great umbrella organization. I myself donate to the Aguda, the LGBT union. That's it. JNF, they're the biggest umbrella organization I can recommend. I would not donate to any political party.
I see there are a couple of other questions. Ralph asks about the women because all the leaders appear to be males and probably hetero gender
Yeah.
males.
The rise of the white cishet men. Surprise. So we have the leader of the labor. And I think that's it. There are no more female leaders. I think the Likud is supposed to be a Mizrahi movement, but we know that Netanyahu is Ashkenazi. And I can't think, maybe Ayelet Shaked, but she's on the right. And she's, sorry. She's on the right, and she's not the most popular right now, even in her public.
It looks like you have a question from, it's not Malka, but
Who's
Yes, Don, I have a couple questions. One about what do you think is going to happen with the Supreme Court? Is the Knesset going to change the law so it can override just with simple majority Supreme Court decisions? Second of all, I heard that there was a great deal of violence within the Arab communities in Arab cities and towns. And people had said before, well, if this continues, then it's going to start spreading to the rest of the country, not just among Arabs, but also among mixed cities and so on. It seems to what you said, the increase in violence was in fact, has taken place in Israel, not necessarily terrorism, but violence, crime, all sorts of issues like that. And the previous government really did not know how to handle it. They devote, okay, well, a lot of what you're saying was a criticism of the Lapid government or Bennett Lapid government, that for whatever reason, they just did not really concentrate on the security, the internal security, not necessarily of from the territories and so on, but internal security. I was surprised about that.
So let's answer in quick succession because we are running out of time. But I will say that the government, the previous government, came into being with the agreement that there were going to be no changes at all. And the Israeli public, that's part of the criticism that the Israeli public has on the Netanyahu government. So they're saying nothing happened. Nothing happened. And when I talked with family, they said, yes, that was intentional. We knew that. They kept the situation as it was. And now we're in a place when there's no way to move forward. There was the first question. Can you repeat that?
Dealt with the Supreme Court.
With the Supreme
The Supreme Court. I have no idea what are Netanyahu's boundaries nowadays. At the end of the day, he needs to do a lot of things for his own benefit. To stay in power is to stay in influence and to pull the strings for his own trial. So I don't know what he's willing to sacrifice in the Israeli democracy. Carol and Mim, you had a question, and I thought I understood what I was going to answer, but apparently I did not. So if you can repeat the question. Ken.
So, Idan, the Maoz is supposed to become this new minister. What is the power that he has been given about Jewish identity? What does that mean?
Noam is the head of, Noam means civility, as we know, or grace, or a lot of other things. But basically they're saying we are here to restore the Jewish family to where it belongs, to Jewish values, to the Jewish tradition, to the Jewish way of leading the country. And that reflects in all areas of society. He's not bringing anything new to the table, but his focus is not about the general politics into the family, but from the family core into the general public. Does that answer the question? You're saying no. So can you repeat it maybe in a different way?
Hi, Don. The question really is, what's this business about identity? What power will he have over identity as Jews? Who is, who isn't? I mean, is he going to have any influence on conversion, on acceptance of the law of the return, and so on?
So that is still developing. As we understand the role that he is going to have in society in general, we will see what are his responsibilities. Because again, they took a part of the Ministry of Education and they moved that under basically the Prime Minister's office. So his role is still opening to discussion, but as with anything else, the minute he can roll back the identity of Russian-born Jews and say those are no longer Jews, he'll do that. Okay, and he's spoken about that, in the past.
Don, there was a question from Marcia Teichman, probably asking if there's a counter demonstration.
There are counter demonstrations when there are demonstrations. Right now, there's not a lot of demonstrations, and there are more riots and lynchings and stuff like that. But with the news of Avi Maoz and what he's trying to do in the Ministry of Education, already, as Netanyahu said about Lapid has been organizing, he's been opening a hotline for school principals and other educational leaders and saying, we will organize and we will protest. The Labor Party, just today, they came out with a notice, and Merav Michaeli, the head of the party, said, we will go out into the streets. Everyone will, even secular right wings, because we're not interested in halachic law for everyone. We're not interested in that. And you will not take our liberties without a fight. So there is the starting of the organizations, but again, because it's still raw, it's not closed yet. The different responsibilities, the government has not been set up. So it's still happening.
Idan, thank you so much for skipping class and sharing your perspectives with us.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
all these very nice compliments in the chat. And stay strong. Most of the American Jews are where you are and not where many of your countrymen are. So you are out.
At least we have that.
Thank you, everyone, for turning out on a, here in Maryland, it's very sunny and cold morning. And we'll see what happens next. Thank you, everybody.
שבת שלום, חג שמח, מרי כריסמס,
Merry
שנה טובה, Eddie God.
Bye, Idan. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Stay strong, Idan. We support you.
המון תודה. יופי לראות אותך.
ביי חמודים.
Thanks for pulling all together.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
Thank you, Idan.
זה הד מופלא.
תודה רבה, איתן.
Thanks, Idan.
Thanks, Idan. To everyone on the call.
A
lot of people on the call. It was good.
Oh, קרון.
Miss you so much.
חמודים.
And we hope all the best for you and your country.
You can come back anytime, Idan. We love you.
I don't think America is going to a good place. Let's meet in Berlin.
That's not a bad idea. We love Berlin.
I haven't been there, but I was told it was the gay capital of the world.
And Israeli, very Israeli.
באמת?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
But we're doing better here. We are doing better here. Better than when you were here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as there.
It really isn't. Well, it's more hopeful, I think, at the
Yeah.
moment.
Right.
But that doesn't make us feel too good.
בהצלחה.
We don't want it to be more hopeful than Israel. That's not good.
It's a low bar.
Absolutely.
A low bar,
A
but
low
you know,
bar.
Congress just passed a gay marriage
Some sort of
know.
protection
I know.
law,
Yes.
which is sort of very bogus, but
It's nothing really. but
nothing more than window dressing. But we'll take it.
It's not bad. At least it's not bad. You know.
That's the good Noam.
נועם. אומייגאד, תראו אותו, מה זה? זה טיטן.
Well, say something. Say something, Noam, so we can.
Hello.
What a different
Yeah, different voice. Different voice than when you left.
טוב, I'm going to eat vegan. ביי חמודים.
Be well.
Be well. Stay strong.